Hi, I'm Ted Haftegabber, founder and producer of Live Talks Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Since we started over a decade ago, we have brought you hundreds of conversations with storytellers, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, chefs, and thought leaders in business and science. You can watch and hear most of these in our YouTube channel and our podcast. For details, visit livetalksla.org. And now, here's the show you've tuned in to see.
Thank you for being here. Our pleasure. Wow. Shall we just start talking, Ed?
Let's just sit here and be in the now.
Okay.
Like Alan Watts said, this is it. Right now, this moment, here it comes.
So you are in the temple of tranquility.
I am.
I believe it, Ed. If anybody is, I believe it's you.
I took it nice and slow to get there, too.
Did you ever?
After some trial and error.
Yeah.
We should just say, because of the ongoing strike, that instead of mentioning movies by name, we'll make some vague reference, because the whole book is about his work, so it'll be hard not to reference it. Every once in a while I might go, cheers. That's just a cough.
Just a cough, pay no attention.
We can say, like that Western that we starred in.
Yes.
Yes,
Exactly.
We did.
Which was your first film.
I have known Ed. Ed was in the first scene I ever did in my first movie, ever in my career, in 1977, which was a Western.
Directed by?
Jack Nicholson.
Starring?
Jack Nicholson.
John Belushi was in it. Danny DeVito was in it. Chris Lloyd was in it. We won't talk about the movie much, but these are all just people I met while down there in Durango, I think.
It was, 1 minute I had been a waitress in New York who'd studied at the Neighborhood Playhouse with Sandy Meisner, but who'd also been doing comedy, improv, and waiting tables for 6.5 years. And the next minute, I'm in Mexico in period clothes with you, and scared out of my mind. And you were so kind to me, but Ed, you were so bad. You were so out of control. You were so...
Verdad.
There was nothing that you didn't imbibe every evening at the El Presidente Hotel.
Then what about when Jim Harrison came to town? Because he had a thirst too. The man liked his gargle.
Oh my gosh, he did. And when you're so bad that John Belushi and Judy, his wife, had to do a sort of makeshift intervention.
It's true. True story. John Belushi and Judy went, come on, you're coming out of the bar for a few minutes here. Going to see some of the town. Get in the car. We're going to take a drive.
I was so freaked out by all of you guys. I was 24 years old. I'd never been on a film set, and I'm the lead in the movie. And I was so freaked out by how wild you guys were that I rented a tiny house and moved out of the El Presidente.
There are many reasons it was wise to move out of the El Presidente.
I think it was good.
I was just one of them.
Yeah.
So wait, your first scene was with Ed?
Yes, I was part of the X-Moon gang.
Do you remember that scene? I mean,
very
it's a fair
well.
question.
I was part of the X-Moon gang, and we had they were called something, what was it, something wives. There was a name to it.
Oh,
where
yeah.
they saved a guy from the gallows because it was the Civil War, and you could save a guy from the gallows if he had done something criminal, if you agreed to marry him and keep him on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, because there were so few men
available fellas,
right.
And Lucy Lee Flippin was my wife, as I remember. Remember her?
She was great. Yes,
she was
I do.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody was. Luana Anders was in that.
Oh yeah.
She was so wonderful, Luana.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of things, but it was definitely fun.
Veronica Cartwright was in that, correct?
She was wonderful.
Wonderful.
She was in the gang.
Tracy Walter, the one that everybody
Yeah.
either knows well Tracy Walter, has seen him in 400 movies, you just don't know it. A great actor. I worked with him on I almost said a movie. I worked with him on a Paul Schrader movie, can I say
Yes.
that? He was great in that, he was great in everything.
And Shorty George.
Shorty George.
Who was...
That's how I got into trouble, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and blame Shorty George for it, like you weren't in trouble before you went down there.
Definitely, that's for sure. Shorty George is Jack Nicholson's father figure, a wonderful guy, colorful guy, worked for the railroad in Jersey, Neptune, New Jersey, I think is where he lived, with wonderful Lorraine. He was married to Lorraine, Jack's sister, aunt. And so, at any rate, great guy, and I decided I would outdrink Shorty George Smith. Not a good plan.
So
Bruce Davison will know this. I tried to outdrink Harry Nilsson. Remember when that happened? They carried me out in a basket. That was a bad move, too.
Now, Jack you knew from before, right?
I knew him for years, and I never worked with him. I always wanted to. And so we heard that he was preparing a movie, and I never, ever in 1,000,000 years would have called him and asked for a part or something. And my agent couldn't get me in or didn't try to get me in. I don't remember that important detail. But then Ingrid, my wonderful saint-like first wife, Ingrid, she said, just call up Jack. I'm sure he'll give you something a day or two. I said, I'm not going to call him. You better call him. He's going to give you something. I said, I've never asked him for something like that. I don't want to do that. It'll be the end of our friendship. And she browbeat me into doing it. So I said, Jack, if there's anything just like a day or maybe even background, I'll do anything. Beggs, let me check into it. Maybe we got something for you, Beggs. And so a few days later, he called, Beggs, we got your part called Whitey. You think you can handle that? And there it was. But he was responsible for the biggest original breakthrough I had as an actor. I guess the first breakthrough was just being relaxed around the camera. On Room 222, I did this wonderful, I said a TV show.
You said it. Go on.
But you can't get it anywhere, so they can't make any money on it. You can't find it anywhere. I won't do that again. But I worked with Richard Dreyfuss was a guest on that too, and Sidney Williams. I made those great friends. But I finally got, as we all got early on, I'm sure, relaxed in front of the camera, and that was great. But the only problem is the next 15 years I was relaxed in front of the camera, which is good up to a point. But you don't want to watch a movie or a TV show or play with everybody nice and relaxed. So then Jack, I was working on this scene, and we did the first attempt at a close-up, and I did what I did, and he said, that all you're going to give me, Beggs? My heart's pounding. I'm disappointing the guy I admire most, the guy I love like nobody else. I can't believe it. That all you're going to give me? Give me a second. And I went off to the side and just said, let's turn that fear into energy. I'll make it into energy. It's fear, but it can also be energy. Jiu-jitsu, use the power to your advantage. Okay, I'm going to do it like I did that night out on Sunset Boulevard with the car accident. We might talk about that later.
I think we better talk about that.
Gotta tell that one.
And so I said, fear into energy, and I did, and whatever I did, it gave some life behind my vacant eyes. I wasn't just relaxed, I was like scared, but I used it to my advantage, and he said, great, we went on with the show. But that was the big breakthrough with Jack, saying, is that all you're going to give me? I thought I was fine. I was doing all these movies, and I was relaxed. And
it's
you
one
can do
word
better
for
than
it.
that.
Yeah. So tell them about the car accident. It's pretty astounding. It's
a crazy story.
It's a holiday story.
It actually goes back, it is a holiday story, but it goes back to Durango, because while there in Durango, John Belushi and I were out in a car. I think I was driving, doesn't matter, one of us was driving. And we got it into a ditch. We went off, slid off the road, went into a ditch. We had to get somebody, the Durango movie Teamsters came and pulled us out. We're scared to death that Harold Schneider, Harry Gittes, the producers, or Jack, God help us, the director and star, would find out that we did that. We quickly learned those are the people who sent the car to help us out of the ditch. Everybody knew about it. Durango is a small town. But I didn't have that kind of advantage like that kind of star power. People very much connected. In 1975, I didn't want to stay home and drink. It seemed kind of sad. So I went to Tana's, as most people did on Christmas in 1975, to drink because they had some Chianti bottles, had a few strings of lights around them. So I drank my quart of vodka. I was with my drinking buddy Neil Rhodes and I, and he said, this is grim. There's like no Christmas spirit here. We got to go, where I think most people went in 1975 for Christmas, the Rainbow Bar and Grill. Nobody went there for Christmas.
We stayed home around the Christmas tree, but go on.
We didn't know
So I
each
go to the
other.
Bow.
What are you saying?
I go to the Bow for Christmas, and it indeed does have a lot of people. Everybody's got like a Santa hat on or something, and the guy Frosty behind the bar, he has on, like antlers or something. And so I said, he says, hey, Ed, you want your usual? He's got a vodka bottle. I said, Frosty, I just drank a full quart of vodka tonics. There's no way I'm going to have any more vodka, please. I'll switch to Chardonnay. I don't want to get too drunk.
Yeah,
So
that's a plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. A quart of vodka, bottle of Chardonnay. Then he offers me a mint. I was a little offended he's offering me a mint because I don't remember having garlic or onions or anything. And I realized I hadn't had anything at all to eat that day. I'd just been drinking. And he said, 714, buddy. I said, yeah, I know. A lot of Orange County ladies are here. They're very attractive. He said, no, 714. And he shook the thing again. It was Quaaludes. That was a little number for the Quaaludes. For the young people out there, think ecstasy, okay? No, it wasn't really even that. It was considered a hypnotic drug. And the one thing, there's a couple warnings. Do not mix with alcohol and do not operate a vehicle. So I said to Frosty, I said, buddy, I had a quart of vodka before I came to you. You saw me have a bottle of Chardonnay. There's no way I'm taking a Quaalude. Give me half. I took a half. 10 minutes later, you know what? Give me another half. Getting pretty toasty. Give me another half. So finally I realized, Quaalude and a half, bottle of Chardonnay, and a quart of vodka. I said to my friend Neil, my drinking buddy, I said, Neil, I don't think I can make it back to the valley. Can I crash at your place over, up Laurel Canyon? And more importantly, can you drive? And this is 1975, but I remember this day exactly what Neil said. He went, so we somehow got him out to the car and what have you, and I put him in the passenger seat, and I started to drive, took a left there on Sunset, and I said, you know what? You're such a friend to me. To spend Christmas with you is great, and I love you, man. He's in the passenger seat, and I'm saying, I really love you. Then he got this weird look in his face, and I thought, did I overstep? Is this the first time I told him I love him? It's okay to say that in 1975, right, to your bromance buddy? And I realized why he was upset. He was looking out the front windshield where I should have been looking. Metal and glass everywhere. Metal and glass, just everywhere. I hit a little Honda Civic, shot him through the intersection like you were playing a game of billiards. Flew through the intersection. I'm praying I didn't injure or kill somebody. Raked along the side of an LTD, like a 72 LTD. I just rake along the right side of it, destroying the right side. They can't use those doors anymore. 4 very large, upset gentlemen from central Los Angeles. And then the guy in the Honda Civic, he already has a cast on his leg already. He's driving with his crutches in the seat. So I wondered, did I injure him? How did that happen so fast? How did he have a cast? I was pretty high, but I didn't understand where he went to get the cast. He'd been in a skiing accident before. He wound up at Sunset in San Vicente. And pieces of his car are literally rolling down the hills. And he manages with his crutches and his cast to protect him in this case, gets out of the car. I said, I'm very sorry, buddy, you okay? Are you okay, gentlemen? I'll take care of all this, but I got to talk to these guys right here. There was a car to the right of me I did not hit that had 2 sheriff's department officers in it. Guys, I'm so sorry about this to mess up your Christmas and yours, gentlemen, but I'll tell you right now, there's only one favor I'm going to ask, then I'm shutting up. Arrest me and take me in. Could I see some ID, please? Absolutely. Have you been drinking, Mr. Begley? Yeah, it's Christmas, guys. I had a couple of beers. Write it up any way you want. I'm on Quaaludes and cocaine and, vodka and Chardonnay, for God's sake. Well, write it up any way you want. I've been pumping those brakes since back at Doheny. This car is defective. I've had it in 4 times to Toyota. I'm going to sue them and I'm going to win. You will help my case if you arrest me and take me in. Swear to God, guys. Because I'm on so much adrenaline. I'm literally talking something like I'm talking now with all this drug and alcohol. And so, this is insane that this actually happened, but it did. I had them under the car with me looking for a leak for the brake lines. There was no leak in the brake lines. I hadn't touched the brakes was the problem. You have to put your foot on the brake, I think is how they work. So then I noticed in all this that the guy with the crutches, he's gone over, because his car is destroyed, being towed away in pieces. He's gone over to payphone, no cell phones back then, goes to payphone. I could hear he's calling a cab. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. I go over and I hang up the phone to the guy with the crutches. I won't have it. I'm the one that caused this problem with you tonight. I'm driving you home. And I get the guy in the car with me. Neil's asleep in the back now. He's in the passenger seat, this guy. So I start to drive down Sunset. Where do you live again? By now, a lot of this adrenaline is worn off, and I signed all the paperwork with the different people. And I say, did you say Coenga and Franklin? I'm going to take you to Coenga and Franklin, my brother. Okay, we're going to take you there right to your door, because you got crutches and a cast. I'm going to take you there. Bang, bang, bang. I start to hear this weird metal noise. I said, do you have any idea what that is? What's that noise? He said, you're knocking the mirrors off the parked cars. You know what? Let me out. No, I'm taking you home. Coenga and Franklin, let me out. I'm taking you home. Let me out, you friggin' maniac. He's hitting me in the head with a crutch. Pull over. Get out, you ingrate. Hobble home, for God's sake. Neil wakes up. Thank you.
Yes.
And with that, I cede all time. Any other questions?
That's how you met Mary. When did we meet? Must have been environmental.
We met with the wonderful Larry Kasdan. You had done Body Heat in a very small part, but you were wonderful in that movie. Oh. Body Heat, you bet. Oh, I did it again. I did it like twice. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
No, I was talking about you had a lot of body heat because it was chilly that night.
Yeah, it's chilly.
You were filming late and you were dancing. You're trying to dance to keep warm, is what I meant to say.
My memory is that was around environmental stuff, which brings
That was a little later. We did meet around that later, but we first met because this is now right after he had done The Big Chill. Oh. This is ridiculous. This is like Tourette.
We weren't in it, so thank you, Larry. So it's okay to mention it.
This is a form of Tourette's. I'm going to be called before the tribunal tomorrow.
Well, you're certainly going to have to be on the pickup line a little extra.
Arrest me and take my SAG card away. I'm pumping the brakes on saying those things, but it wouldn't respond. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Oh, it's Tourette's.
Here's what I remember, and I know an apology in front of everybody makes it less of an apology, but you were Mr. Environmentalist, and I don't know if you remember this, but Heal the Bay was giving you an award for helping to keep offshore oil drilling out of the bay, and they asked me to give you the award. And he everywhere he went by bike. So even to the award show, and it was drizzling, he was on his bike in his tuxedo. I don't know if you remember this, but
I do remember.
A stretch limo came real close to you and splashed you with water. That was me, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
He did that great joke too. Somewhere in New Jersey, we're there just before, just after me, I can't remember, he said, Ed Begley, whenever I see him, I try to run him over with my limo. It's a great joke.
Are you still bicycling everywhere?
I ride my bike around Studio City. I don't go over the hill anymore. I used to go over, Coenga, go over Sepulveda, one of the canyons, but now I keep it in the neighborhood.
But let me ask you, when did you get the environmental bug? Because you
1970.
Why? How? What?
Living in smoggy LA. I grew up in smoggy LA. And after 20 years of living in that horrible choking smog, you couldn't run from here to the first row without wheezing. As a young man, I didn't have asthma. My friend James, who's here, did have asthma from breathing that dirty air and other things. But I didn't have asthma, but I breathed like that a lot of the time. We had maybe 50 days a year where you could see the hills. Other than that, people would come to the San Fernando Valley, they go, why do they call it a valley? You couldn't see the Simi Hills, Santa Monica Mountains, the Verdugo Hills, Hollywood Hills, none of it. Valley, where's the valley? You had to get to like Ventura Boulevard to see the hills there of the Hollywood Hills. Had to get to, right up to the edge of the mountains. But it wasn't just visual, it hurt your lungs. And they said they're going to clean up the air, and they said they're going to clean up the water. And I'd seen the Santa Barbara oil spill, what that did in '69. That was the year before. Yeah. That's just before the first Earth Day. And also in '69 was when the Cuyahoga River near Cleveland caught fire. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's a bad sign when rivers catch fire. Like the river Styx or something, it was kind of bad. And so people said, we're going to fix that, we're going to clean it up. And so I went, sign me up. So I started recycling, composting, became a vegetarian, bought my first electric car in 1970.
The EV, no, what was the electric car?
When I say car, I'm being quite grand. We're talking about a golf cart with a windshield wiper and a horn, okay? Electric cart, I should say, with a T on the end and a K at the beginning.
But then you did go on to make your own electric cars, didn't you?
I helped my friend Howard Latofsky. We modified a car. I had bought a car, true story, in 1989. I bought a car, a Subaru, a 73 Subaru converted to electric, but the pack was like 36 volt or something ridiculous. So my friend Howard made me put it in series instead of in parallel, these batteries. So then we had 72 volts. Ooh, Katie, bar the door. And so then I started driving that around, but at least I could go on the freeway. But that car cost me $1,700. Somebody in Illinois sold it to me for $1,700. Then we put another $2,500 into it, and I drove it around LA, and it worked.
Yeah. Ed, you all know this, but he had the reputation of not just talking about the environment, but truly walking the walk. You were everyone's hero.
He's the person, the environmental hero. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and thank you for that. And I've tried to do some stuff to make a change, but if I could ever do a fraction of what you've done at American Oceans Campaign and now at Oceana for years, I will be a happy man.
Thanks.
Life-changing what you've done, life-changing. Proud of what I've done, but that's the big Keith Addis, who's here, helps you a bit, I know.
Yep.
Great people you work with.
Yep. Yeah. No, very blessed. Okay, more about me. Anybody?
Talk a little bit about your family.
That was, there's a good way to, I want to talk about my family myself without paper, but there's a good way to start talking about my family.
Do it, yes,
yeah,
yes.
do it.
The first chapter, I get to talk about my family by reading. We've never discussed any of this. This is just happening spontaneously. That's why I printed this up. It just happened just now.
I know. It's amazing, the mind meld.
You can go get a beverage if you want to while I read this.
We have some.
Okay.
We'll
We paid our
attempt
money.
not to steal focus from you.
Let's see how I do with this. Chapter 1, Permit Me. Sitting alone in the back of my father's hot car was nothing new for me. Leaving your kids or pets inside a sweltering vehicle was not frowned upon in the mid-'60s. It was regarded as more of an impromptu spa day. And thrifty man that my dad was, he was not about to leave the motor running even on a hot day in August. Okay, I had a tendency to embellish back then. It was not August, but March. March 16th, to be exact, my half birthday. Not quite sweet 16, but more than a quinceañera. Though those two events are important ones, I'm aware that a 15-and-a-half-year birthday is not. And to celebrate such a non-event leaves you open to much derision, as did complaining about a hot car when it's technically still winter in LA, as did complaining about a hot planet a few years later. But let me return to 1965. If you live in the Golden State and you reach 15 and a half years of age, you're allowed to apply for a learner's permit with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Then, if you haven't killed anyone in those next 6 months and you yourself live to see 16, you're given a full and proper license to operate a vehicle on the streets and freeways of Los Angeles, or in my case, Van Nuys. It's important to note that despite my father's profession and his success, we did not live in Beverly Hills, where my father's car was now parked. We lived in the Valley, in a surprisingly modest home, 2 bedrooms, 1,700 square feet. But my father occasionally had his indulgences, and a Beverly Hills business manager was one of them. And here my father came, document in hand, walking away from the accountant's office as one would exit a structure engulfed in flames. That was just the way my father walked, to the mailbox, to catch a subway in Manhattan, getting to the podium to receive his Academy Award. This Allegro philosophy was not confined to his gait. It also applied to meals. I paid the check, finish up, and meet me in the car. And vacations as well. That's the Grand Canyon, grab a shot, and we'll try to make the Painted Desert by nightfall. But on that particular day, I was quite grateful for his alacrity, because as he jumped into the car and pulled away from the curb, he handed me the document I needed to change my life. The document essential to all matters DMV in 1965, as it is today, my birth certificate. As we wound our way back to the valley over Coldwater Canyon, I began to really think through the nuts and bolts of the plan that my best friend Dave Goodman and I had hatched, code name Permit Me. A full driver's license at age 16 was certainly something to aspire to. You could take your friends to the beach or Disneyland. You could take a girl out on a date without your parents or your bus pass. And the learner's permit was not the same, as it had this one serious restriction. You had to have a fully licensed adult in the car with you during those endless 6 months. True story. It also had this one wonderful and largely unknown loophole. You could use your learner's permit alone and unsupervised if you're learning to drive a motorcycle. And Dave and I loved our motorcycles. To be clear, we did not own motorcycles. We intended to rent them by the hour. There was a rental outfit at Sepulveda and Oxnard that would rent you a 90cc Japanese motorcycle if you could produce a scrap of paper known as a learner's permit, a document generated on an actual typewriter, and absent a photo of said applicant, a California grizzly or prospector panning for gold, or anyone or anything that would keep us from creating the document on our own. I don't know why they thought teens would return the bikes in the absence of photo ID and a credit card. And I don't know why we would have, but we always did. For guys my age, those noisy contraptions somehow held the promise of speed, freedom, perhaps even romance. We'd seen Steve McQueen jump that fence in his Triumph in The Great Escape. Marlon Brando rode his Triumph into town and into our collective psyche in The Wild One. Sorry, I'm doing like 100 titles now. It's okay, I'm reading from a book is why. But those were golden screen moments from the past, and Dave and I tried to remain au courant, so we both were regular customers at the Fox Theater on Van Nuys Boulevard. Hardly art house cinema, but they often ran films from avant-garde filmmakers like Roger Corman. We went multiple times to see Hell's Angels on Wheels, not so much for the movie, but for this young actor who was in it. An actor who, like Marlon, had something unique and dangerous and wonderful going on. And like Marlon, he would go on to win multiple Academy Awards and be regarded as one of the finest actors of our lifetime. But for now, I was headed back to the valley where I belonged. It was then that I focused on the envelope that my dad had given me, the envelope that contained my birth certificate. What did an ancient document from 1949 look like? Was it written on parchment with a quill? Did it have one of those cute little baby footprints that makes being switched at birth less likely? Before I could settle those two very worthy questions, a quick inspection of said document caused a new question to move to the top of my queue, and it was a doozy. Dad? Why is there no mother's name on my birth certificate? My dad was not much for touchy-feely exchanges, but at least he didn't respond by going on the offensive with some version of, none of your fucking business, which had been his default setting for such inquiries in the past. In the minus column, he didn't feel the need to immediately respond or to pull over. He just kept driving, occasionally looking in the mirror. And my immediate thought was, how could he think this wouldn't come up once I looked at the document? Had he simply forgotten that my mother's name was not on it? I knew who my mother was, Amanda Begley, née Huff. My father and Amanda had 3 children before she died of cancer in 1957. My brother Tom, my sister Eileen, and me, the youngest. After what seemed like an eternity, my father finally spoke. Amanda wasn't your mother. As shocking as that was, I attempted to pick up the pace, making it less like NASA communicating with Voyager 1 as it heads into deep space, and more like an actual conversation. Who is my mother? Long pause. Finally, Sandy's your mother. Now it was my turn to slow down. There would be no fiber optic speeds coming from my side of the conversation now either, just dial-up 150 baud. In that moment, it all made sense. Sandy. I love Sandy. A little eccentric, but fun. When I was much younger, we lived in Merrick out on Long Island, so I often saw her at Christmas or Easter in the city. There was something about her. My sister once hopped the Long Island Railroad, got to Grand Central Station, started asking commuters where Sandy was. We saw her so much at that particular hub, we both thought that she lived there. If it ever occurred to me and my sister to ask, now, who's Sandy again? We never did. We were taught not to ask such questions back then. Years later, I would learn that Sandy was a page at NBC that my father had taken up with. though he was quite actively married to another woman, Amanda. To this day, I have no idea how much Amanda knew about Sandy or vice versa. But now me and my dad are stuck in the car together with this little bombshell. We rode in silence the rest of the way to the DMV. Had I achieved even a small dose of acceptance or gratitude at this point in my life, I would have seen this moment for what it was, a tremendous gift. 10 minutes ago, I had a mother who was dead. Now I had the live variety. All in all, a good day. But acceptance and gratitude were seen as character defects among my peers, so I was not remotely ready for anything like that. I would soon learn that everyone but my sister and I knew this deep, dark secret. We both felt a deep sense of betrayal as a result of it. I was dumbfounded at my father's ability to pull off such a massive bit of deception, probably because I was so bad at that kind of thing. So I was bad at lying, but that wasn't going to stop me from doing it. If I only had some tool, some matter in a solid, liquid, or gaseous state that could give me the courage and the heightened awareness to be better at lying or other stressful situations. Didn't take me long to find it. Was it first stolen pills, then stolen liquor? It was even occasionally the nitrous oxide pilfered from a can of Ready Whip in the dairy aisle. That covers it, right? The three states of matter. The three states of matter. Solid, liquid, gas. Maybe he's going to pass that chemistry test after all. So I developed a warped sense of reality for the next 2 decades, a warp fomented by a nearly daily regimen of drugs and alcohol from 1967 to 1979. I'd like to think I've become a better liar in the time that has transpired since the end of that tumultuous 70s, but you be the judge. I'm going to list a bunch of true facts that I could have never imagined back in 1965, but I swear to you on my life, they are all 100% verifiably true. Okay, one of them is a lie. See if you can spot it. I would have a career that spans 7 decades and include hundreds of TV shows and movies. Maybe. I would discover that my brother Tom Begley was my cousin, not my brother. I would get to meet all 4 Beatles, even get to be friends with them. I would smoke a joint with Charles Manson at the Spahn Ranch in Chatsworth. That's what it says. I would be stabbed, beaten, and hospitalized waiting for a bus in Los Angeles. I would buy my first electric car in 1970. I would have a much improved electric car in 1993, one I sometimes charged at O.J. Simpson's house. I would carry my dear friend Cesar Chavez through the streets of Delano. I would serve several terms as governor in California for a total of 15 years. I would regularly spend time with Groucho Marx in his home and occasionally enjoy a sleepover. I would play Trivial Pursuit with the Clintons and show them their first electric car. I would get to know and work with Kirk Douglas, Meryl Streep, Peter Falk, Alan Arkin, Michael Caine, Billy Wilder, Richard Pryor, Dave Mamet, Jeff Goldblum, Eric Idle, Denzel Washington, Buck Henry, Don Henley, Jane Fonda, Gina Davis, Dabney Coleman, Lily Tomlin, Leonardo DiCaprio, Vince Gilligan, John Cleese, Danny Glover, Harvey Keitel, William Hurt, Larry Kasdan, Larry David, Angelica Houston, Pam Grier, Penny Marshall, Alfre Woodard, Taylor Swift, Jeff Bridges, Yaphet Kotto, Rob Reiner, and Christopher Guest.
Did you hear our names?
No, I didn't.
You've got a whole chapter coming. The people that have a whole chapter. Is it too late to edit? And most incredibly, at the very moment, the very second that my dad told me the shocking news about my mother, we passed a driveway that led to the two separate houses in the vicinity of Coldwater and Mulholland. A driveway that for over 40 years was shared by Marlon Brando and that Roger Corman star in the motorcycle, Jack Nicholson. There would be many trips up and down that driveway over the years. You see, I worked at Art's Deli on Ventura Boulevard, would deliver sandwiches to those talented gentlemen. And let me tell you, they were big tippers. Okay, you probably figured out which one was a total lie. Not the governor one. I said I was governor in California, not of California. You'll soon learn governor of what. It was the last one about Art's Deli. That was total bullshit. I never brought Marlon or Jack sandwiches, though I probably should have. That's the kind of thing you do for friends. Back to the easy part. All the work's done. I can relax again.
Can you just tell me about the joint with Charles Manson?
Wait, say again?
How did you end up smoking a joint with Charles Manson?
Because my dear friend James Jeremias, who's here, he said, let's go. I lived in Northridge. He lived in Canoga Park. We were going to go visit his friend David Kurland. And so we went to David Kurland's house. He lived in a tree house next to a saloon. So we smoked a joint, but we brought one joint with us and one only, and David didn't have anything. He said, the family lives up the hill there in another house. They have some pretty good pots. So we went up and smoked a joint with this one and that. People I'd never met before, I'd probably never meet again. One guy looked a little funny, and he had some songs that he wrote. He wanted to know, he recognized my name, Begley, from my father. He wanted to know if I could help him, get his music heard. And I didn't know a lot of people in music at that point. I knew TV and film people, so I said I'd look into it, but I knew I never would. And then we went back to the car that we had parked right near the treehouse in the saloon. I should probably mention the saloon was not a real saloon, but it was a saloon in the movie set called the Spahn Ranch. And then a year later, we saw all those same people we'd smoked a joint with, and especially the one guy who wanted some help with the music with the crazy eyes. So.
What was that moment like for you? Like, oh my God?
Bullet dodged.
Yeah, wow.
I'm glad I didn't give him my address. Or phone number.
Yeah.
He was after Terry Melcher. Did you know Terry?
I know. He was trying to find Terry, but I don't mean to trifle with the tragic part of it, which is, all of it is tragic, because the Tate family, the LaBianca, family, all those people, just horrible beyond words.
Mm-hmm. Heartbreaking.
But that's the kind of insanity I would find myself in, back there in the 60s, just crazy.
You dodged a lot of bullets, let's be honest.
Oh boy.
And what year did you get sober?
Say again?
What year did you get sober?
I got sober in 1979, December of 1979.
Wow.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But I want to mention, if we're going to talk about sobriety, and I'm glad we are, there was a guy, sometimes there's so many people that helped me when I was in that hell of drinking, and I'm grateful for them all. They helped me in so many ways. But some of the people who were over me might have even helped me more. They just kind of were fed up with my nonsense, and they made it known to me. There's a guy named Billy Boyle that I used to see on Rodeo Drive at one of these places, is all I'll say. And Billy Boyle would be out there. You could smoke back then in and out of the meetings. He was smoking a cigarette. I came in for, the umpteenth time into a recovery group thing. I said, oh, you're back again. What did you break this time? What did you injure? You're never going to get sober. I said, Billy, what a terrible thing to say. Why would you say that? I'm never going to get sober. You're supposed to be encouraging people here with your amount of sobriety. Why would you say that? That's terrible. He says, I heard you're working. Don't you have a job right now? I said, yeah, I'm doing Battlestar Galactica. You're still married to Gretchen? I said, well, it's Ingrid, but yeah, I'm married. Got a kid? I got 2 kids. Got a place, don't you have a nice place in Hancock Park? Well, Larchmont, but yeah, basically, yeah. He said, oh, you're screwed. Why am I screwed? He said, because you haven't lost anything. Keep doing it, you're going to lose it all. So then he says, here's the way it's going to work now. Puts out the cigarette. He says, you're going to call me before you drink next time, not after like this, coming in here for the umpteenth time. You're going to call me before you drink. You understand that? I'm going to kick your ass. Billy was like 5'2" and 111 pounds. 200 pounds, 6'4". I say, Billy, I'll call you. Yes, okay, buddy, whatever you say, or you're going to come kick my ass, thanks. Then it happens, as it happened many times. Either a bad thing happens, but sometimes when a good thing happens. I was doing a movie, I won't say with the title of the movie, finally I won't say it. But
Well done.
Peter Falk and Alan Arkin were in it. And it's a great movie. So I'm going to do that. And also there's a certain amount of pressure because I was working, another thing I won't say, with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. We played a very historic musical figure, and I played the drummer of this historical musical figure. And they had to make my hair black because that's the color of the hair of the drummer of this famous musician. And so I had it dyed, and they promised me to go back to blonde hair. so I could start on the in-laws, and they had hired me This is ridiculous. Can the SAG people just come and arrest my ass right now? I'm serious. This is just ridiculous. It's part of my brain damage, I'm sorry. So they take all the color out, they bring me back to blonde. I go to sleep and wake up to get on the plane to start on this other movie I'm not going to say now. And I go to the mirror to start to brush my teeth. Ah! I've got completely red hair, like baboon's ass red. Red hair. So I get to LAX, and I go, and now I got to have a drink, because they hired a blonde, and now I've got red hair, and I shampoo, nothing gets, it's not temporary, it's changed. Trying to get it blonde, it turned red. So they open up the gate there on the host bar at LAX. It's 8 in the morning, and I order Bloody Mary, and I put it to my lips, and then I remember, Billy goddamn Boyle. Hold on, bartender, I'll be right back. Put the drink down, no cell phones on. I got to go over to a payphone, about that far away. Go over the payphone. Billy, hi, it's Ed Begley. Who the hell is this calling me at this hour? Sorry, buddy, I'm here at LAX, and you told me to call you before I drink, and so I'm about to have a drink, so I'm calling you. You're at LAX, where are you going? I'm a little blasé, okay. I'm going to Cuernavaca. I'm going to shoot there in the blah, blah, blah movie. And I hear it's nice this time of year. Okay, man, that's good. You give me a call when you get there. Did you not hear me? I'm going to drink like right now. Hold on a second. Bartender, did I just order a drink? Yeah, you did. You're going to come drink it? Yeah, I'm coming right now to drink the drink. I'm going to drink right now. No, you're not going to drink. I said, I am. And also, I'm in first class. I'm going to drink as soon as I get on the plane, like 10 more drinks. No, you're not going to drink. I am going to drink. You're not going to drink. I am going to drink. You're not going to drink. Why am I not going to drink, I finally say. And he said, because you called me. He said, if you really wanted to drink, you would have had the damn drink. You called me because you don't want to drink. You came in your first meeting there at St. Augustine because you don't want to drink. That's why you came in the meeting. It's not, I do want to drink. You don't want to drink more than you do, or you wouldn't have picked up the phone. Call me when you get to Cuernavaca. And I didn't take that drink.
Wow.
Isn't that a beautiful story? These people that help you.
story.
He passed away, but he was a great guy. Pardon me.
Yeah.
He helped a lot of people.
Yeah. Love you, Ed Begley.
Now that I've gotten very sincere, can we pick it up again?
Okay.
That was
get
too
back to the
good,
laughs.
buddy.
Why
That was too
why
good.
don't you tell this?
See, Rochelle, I do have feelings. Where is she? Sorry.
You keep talking about your first saint, perfect saint of a wife, and she was really lovely, and I knew her. We were neighbors in Ojai.
A great
all
lady.
of us.
God, was she wonderful.
She was, but
And
you're
what a gift to be
married
friends with her.
a kick-ass, amazing woman now.
Rochelle is the
Rochelle.
greatest
Yes.
of the great.
Yes.
Where are you, Rochelle? I love you, honey. I love you so much.
Who, when you discovered that you were sick, there was nothing passive or accepting about it. She dove in and started researching and fighting
She
for
did.
you and fighting for knowledge and fighting for everything you needed.
There's a Don Henley story that tells the tone of her life. I will not go quietly.
I love that.
Yeah, she's great, and
Yeah.
she's helped me in immeasurable ways. There's also a very funny chapter about all the stuff that talks about Ingrid, my former wife, who was wonderful, and Rochelle, my incredible wife today, and it's called Sleeping with My Ex.
You might want to explain that.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break.
We got a room together, all of us, in Shasta City. We were driving up to our daughter's wedding. Me and Ingrid have a beautiful daughter that you know called Amanda. We're going up. Here's how it was. Rochelle and I were going to drive up with our then 5-year-old daughter, Hayden. And Ingrid hears of this and says, "Oh, can I ride with you?" And we become such good friends, Ingrid and me. She was like a sister to me, as you know. And so she rode in the car with us, and we get to Shasta City. We're going to stop for the night to get up to Bend, Oregon. And what kind of room would you like, Ingrid? I say to her, tell me what kind of bed you want. She said, why don't we all just share a room together? Okay. I wish it was as exciting as no, I don't wish anything. Hayden fell asleep next to me in the bed next to me. In the other bed was Ingrid and Rochelle. And what movie were you watching that night? Please tell me the name of the movie. War of the Roses. They couldn't stop watching War of the Roses. And the whole trip up, we had more laughs because they united against a common enemy. I think Ingrid actually said these words, "Oh, he's still doing that? Imagine what it was like when he had hair and a career." It was very funny. They got along very well. We were all very close. How lucky are we?
Very lucky.
Very lucky.
Very lucky.
I know you all have similar things. That's great.
We do.
We do.
I
We're
love
blessed.
my
We're
ex-husband.
blessed. We're all blessed.
I'm very fond of him.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too. No, me too. Really,
Yeah.
I love him.
I do
He's
too.
an
I love
amazing
Malcolm.
man.
Malcolm's
Yeah.
amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he likes my work, so you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually,
Go
I'll
ahead.
it quickly, it's so short, but he was sort of horrible to a past person I dated for a while. And so when I started to date Ted and nobody knew about it, I went to my ex-husband and we're talking about Malcolm McDowell. And so I went to him and I said, I'm dating someone that I happen to know you admire, and if you're rude or mean to him, then that will just tell me that you're still obsessed with me. And I knew he would hate that idea. So,
Brilliantly played.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
so he said, who is it? And I said, it's Ted Danson. And he went, shit. Because we were huge Cheers fans, and I knew that he couldn't say anything. So, no, worked out nicely.
We had
We're
so
all,
much
we're
fun
all
together.
very blessed. Yeah. we really
Yeah,
are.
you guys used to come over and we'd play Trivial Pursuit.
Trivial Pursuit. And he loved winding me up. Malcolm did. He's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like being attacked by Don Rickles. It's just the greatest. You're
know.
laughing yourself. So incredibly funny. I miss him.
Tell the story about you mentioned about the driveway, which I first went down that driveway when I was 24 years old. And if you went left, you went to Marlon Brando's house. And if you went right, you went to Jack's.
Right.
And you became friends with Marlon, who I never met, but you became friends with him. And you had what was the crazy story?
Oh, if this goes on too long, somebody wave a flashlight or a flag at me. But I'll tell it briefly. I'll tell the brief version of it. But I quickly learned the reason I went up there for the first time, because Helena said, Marlon wants to talk to you. And we had a lovely conversation. And I quickly surmised what he didn't want to talk about. Acting, writing, directing, puppetry, trained seals, claymation, anything that was remotely show business, he didn't at all want to talk about. He didn't want to talk about drywall, wiring, steel galvanized pipe, wind turbines, solar panels, growing algae in a pond as a food source or energy source. So that's all kinds of crazy stuff. So I kept getting asked back. But he never, ever wanted to talk about show business until this one day I get a message on the machine. Ed, get on up here. I won't do the Marlon now. I don't do it very well anymore. But get on up here right away. I need to talk to you. I've got a project I want to do with you. I have distribution. I've got all the financing in place. Come up as quick as you can. So I race up there. I normally would ride my bike up. I got in a car and drove up. I didn't want Sean Penn to get the part, so I raced up there, and there was big lettering there that said, "Stay in your car and honk your horn." Giant on the garage. It had letters this big, "Stay in your car and honk your horn." And I'm usually on my bike, so I didn't need that, but this time I didn't pay any attention to it anyway, because I loved the reason for it. It was these huge dogs. I mean, big enough they could compete in dressage. These giant mastiffs. So they recognized me right away. I put my head down like this and offered myself, in a supplicant manner. And they remembered it was me and sniffed me a bit, and then showed me the way to the room where Marlon would entertain people. I was careful not to fall in when I went near the swimming pool because it was all green. It was just total algae. And so if those gunite walls could talk, huh? You could only imagine. So I get in there and I sit down. He comes out in a great mood. He said, "Where's your helmet?" I said, "I rode my car up." "Oh my God, get me Pat Morrison from the Times. Begley bogus on biking. I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to ruin you, then you'll have to do my project." And it had the desired effect. We were both laughing right away. So he says right away, "Do you know how many volts an electric eel puts out?" I didn't think that's where we were headed today, you know. I'm sure it's a lot of voltage, a couple hundred, but only like half an amp, not a lot of current. He says, "You see, this is why you're perfect for the project." "Do you know what a plecostomus is?" I said, "I happen to know that for sure. It's a suckerfish. It's like, oh, all the algae out there in the pond, in your swimming pool, is that what it's for?" He says, "Yeah, I've been growing these plecostomus. It's a good feed source for the eels. And if you do it right," I said, "I get it, there'll be a sucker board every minute, ha ha ha." And so we're laughing, having a good time. He said, "What's the name of the town down the coast?" The town down the coast, you mean like Santa Monica, or no, go further south? Manhattan Beach, Seal Beach, La Jolla. Yeah, La Jolla, the Scripps Institute in La Jolla. I'm going to get 75 electric eels. We're going to put them in the pool. We're going to run the whole house. I don't care if you have 750 eels. You're not going to run anything. A hobbyist light bulb at a science fair for a second, but you're not going to. How are you going to harness? Harness being an appropriate word in this case. You're going to have a little harness like a cartoon seahorse, and all the wires twisted to shit, you know. Why is everything no with you? Everything's always no. But then he had another one. I couldn't help myself. I had to try it a little bit.
That's good.
So then he said, "Do you still have your wind turbine?" I said, "Yeah, it's out there in the desert, part of a wind farm." He said, "Give me a piece of paper." He got a piece of paper and he drew something. My wind turbine was on this piece of paper. It's about this big. In front of my wind turbine, he has an object that's this big next to my wind turbine that's this big. And so it looks kind of like a cornucopia with the end cut off, or hearing. What's that, Sonny? A hearing horn, or a funnel? I said, "What is that?" He said, How big do you know how big my wind turbine is? It's 150 feet. That would make this funnel like 300 feet. You're going to have every bird in the Pacific flyway sucked in there. You chop them up like a Cuisinart, and it'll blow the wind turbine down. They're only set for certain 35, 40 miles an hour, and then they shut off so the wind doesn't tear them down. You'll tear it to pieces. Everything is always no with you. Why do you do that? But then there were yeses. He invented a thing with this man, Dr. Craven, where they take deep ocean water, like his island Tahiti. They spend so much money on electricity, and a lot of it is spent cooling the food, cooling the guests, and cooling the people who work there. If you take water from the deep ocean and pump it up, you can use that to cool, and it works very well with a fraction of the wattage. He invented that with a guy named Dr. Craven, so he was a real great guy and a wonderful inventor too, Marlon Brando.
One last one for me, at least, is Cesar Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet? How did you end up carrying his coffin down the streets? How did all of that happen?
It was the biggest moment, the greatest sadness and the greatest honor I ever had. I met him because I had supported him from a distance. The strike fund back in the 60s, my friend Jan Fisher and Bill Malloy, and James too knew about such things. My friend James Dermias is here. We wanted to help the workers, so we sent money to the strike fund for the United Farm Workers. And also, more importantly, we didn't buy lettuce, no lechuga, no uvas, no grapes. But then one day, this is the 80s now, I'm at Pan's Restaurant on Sepulveda, kind of near Sentinel or something there, near Jefferson, and I'm having some oatmeal, and this guy parks his car in this beat-up car. And I go, that guy, that's amazing. I wonder who that guy is. It looks just like Cesar Chavez, but he wouldn't be in a car like that. He's like an internationally known labor leader. And I think for 1 second, I go, that's exactly the kind of car he'd be in. He was just the man of the people. He'd worked in the fields himself. And when the guy walked past me with another guy, it was clear it was Cesar Chavez. So I waited till they ordered and the food hadn't come yet. I walk over, Mr. Chavez, I've supported you over the years with the strike fund and no uvas and no lechuga, and thank you so much. And if I can ever be of help. And he was very much amused by my business card. My business card has Ed Begley, then it has like Musso and Frank's kind of script, since 1949. And so he found that very amusing. And he said, so what is your thing? What is your passion? I said, besides your important work, you know, the environment. He said, well, there's a big connection between the environment and labor, because the people are out there in the fields harvesting and working the fields, and they come over with the pesticides and spray them, and people get very sick. And I said, I know very well about that. I know about the cancer clusters in McFarland and Erlenmart, so I really knew a lot about that horrible story. And so we became fast friends. I worked with him on pesticide issues. So when he died in 1993, I had the honor and sadness of carrying his coffin through the streets of Delano. Wow. And I never met anyone like him. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
A true leader.
So many funny stories, but you really are one of my heroes in life. You really are
Right back at you,
magnificent,
buddy.
Ed. You really are.
Both of you.
I think are we supposed to, are people gonna ask you questions?
Oh yeah, let's get some questions from the audience.
First off, I'm just going to say thank you, Ed, for giving me the opportunity to play Dolores Huerta.
Danielle Barbosa, is
Yes.
that Danielle? Oh my God, she played Dolores Huerta.
Yes,
I also know
and-
Dolores Huerta, by the way.
Thank you so much, Ed. But I went to the book reading, the book that you just did at the Grove, and you teased me with your plans for Susan and Reuben, that you might have something more in the works.
What she's talking about is an incredible gift that the family gave me. That is to say, they allowed me 10 years, the 10-year anniversary of the death of Cesar Chavez, that would be 2003. They allowed me to do a play that I wrote about Cesar Chavez, and a weird kind of a play, a weird category. It's called a jukebox musical. You've heard that term, I'm sure. Mamma Mia, or Jersey Boys, or Rock of Ages are all jukebox musicals, because they take existing songs and tell a story with reverse engineering. So that's what we did with this. It was a lovely play about Cesar Chavez, and Dolores Huerta came many times, and she loved the play, and she loved you in it, Danielle Barbosa. This is a wonderful actress with a beautiful voice. Danielle Barbosa, please. Oh yes, but I want to do the play again, so you're going to be getting a call from me. I need your help. There it is. I'll make it official. Thank you, Danielle. Bless you.
Ed, you have such a history of supporting so many different events, and I've covered a lot of them as a journalist. One of them was you did the first and the last Harry Dean Stanton Award, which was right before Harry Dean died, and you remained friends with him, even though Harry never really got sober, so to speak. Was that difficult to sometimes negotiate friendships with people who continue to, go in a different direction than you chose to go in your life?
Harry his drinking was very different than me. I'm not even sure he was an alcoholic. He was certainly a heavy drinker, but he could take it or leave it. Here's when I decided years ago that Harry was not an alcoholic. He had this big pump bottle of Seagram 7. I mean, one of those things that's like family size. It was literally this big. It had a pump thing. I kept coming back every time I come to his place. Over years, it never went down. Nobody drank it. He didn't. That would be gone in a week or two with me. So Harry was kind of a wild man in some ways, but a dear friend, and he's the one that introduced me to Alan Watts, a great writer and thinker, Alan Watts, who wrote a book, many great books he wrote, but one is called This Is It. And if you're in an enlightened frame of mind, you walk past a bookstore, you might get it. This is it. This moment right now that we have together, the three of us and all of us, is all you really get. We must remember the past and plan for the future, but don't spend too much time there. Be in this moment right now with Ted and Mary, and my God, how lucky am I. Oh, Jesus.
Sorry. My fault.
Not my fault. I'm great with the physical
Bob.
comedy. Hold on. I swear that was Harry Dean saying hello. I swear to God. He's having a laugh. He's laughing his ass off now. Thank you, Harry. That was fantastic.
I did a movie with him where he played my guardian angel, Gideon, who
That's right.
sat up in a tree playing
With Richard
his-
Farnsworth.
Yes. playing his guitar and singing the Mexican songs.
He sang beautifully.
He sang so
He sang
beautifully.
those songs in Spanish beautifully, those wonderful Mexican songs. He sang in Cool Hand Luke and played the guitar in this wonderful movie we did with the great Harry Dean Stanton. It was called Lucky, his last movie. Anybody see Lucky? Anybody see the wonderful? It's so good. If you have, oh shit, this is ridiculous. Take me out in manacles, I'm telling you. I can't remember. Ted and Mary, right?
Yeah.
Any others?
Thanks, first of all, for every time when I used to work for AQMD, I would call you to do a press event with us, and you were always gracious about it. And I just want to say thank you publicly for that.
Thanks.
And my question is, where did the idea, did you have a different title idea? And why did you finally settle on this idea for your book?
Oh, it just came organically. The way the book happened is this. My daughter Hayden, who's here too, another great love of my life, the wonderful Hayden is here, and she decided she wanted to archive some of my stories about this one and that and things that happened with my father and my ancestry. My grandparents did come over in a boat from Ireland, so all that kind of stuff. She started to get it on her cell phone. But she has a life and she can't be there every day doing that. So I went, well, let me start to do some of this myself, and that's when it happened. I'm sure it's happened with other people in this room and on this stage. The computer keyboard became like a Ouija board that actually worked. I started writing about what was up in the attic, and it took me down the basement. And you open a box and another one's inside and another one. And it was just joyous to write. I just wanted to get back the computer every day. I wrote 80% of it in 3 months. It just poured out. And it was great fun, and I thought it was going to be just for my kids and grandkids. And now people are reading it, enjoying it, which is another gift.
What about the title?
Oh, the title of the book is a line actually said by the great actor Dick Stahl. And he did not say it, as he said many funny things on stage with a committee or other improv groups, did not say it in a TV show or movie. Here's how he said it. Dick, like me, had been very moved by and influenced by the Beatles when they went to work with the Maharishi and learn from the Maharishi, to learn Eastern philosophy and some, things of that nature. So he planned a trip to go to this ashram called the Temple of Tranquility, and like me, a very type A personality. He had a flight here and a merchant marine vessel there and a thing and another boat, and he got to the temple. But the first flight was late leaving LAX for some reason, so he missed a flight in Hawaii, the connection. He got the Philippines. There was another week to get another merchant marine vessel to get a passage on that. Then it became monsoon season. So when he finally ran up the dock and got into a taxi, he actually said to the driver, "To the Temple of Tranquility and step on it." And the driver didn't want to ruin his tip, but he's trying to keep it together, but he's starting to laugh, and Dick starts to laugh. And I'd heard that story when, what a perfect title for it, because I tried to do it myself. I tried to do it the way I did everything, which is to rush, and I tried to do it the wrong way in another category, which is trying to find serenity in a bottle of Stoli. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yes, I must have talked to you about 6 or 7 years ago about electric cars, and I recognized then your love for electric cars, and my question to you is, what do you think has to happen to electric cars to get people over the hurdle and get the society to become more electric?
I think they need to have, there can certainly be some high-end electric cars, and I drive one of them now. I've had some very low-end electric cars that I told you, a 73 Subaru, but now every manufacturer makes at least one or more electric cars, and they're very good, and I have a high-end one, but they need to be a nice series of choices on, more modestly priced electric cars. And I think to get there, we should all think about, if it would be to our advantage to have a price on carbon, to have a carbon tax. I think that would help us. Yeah. I like that idea myself. Thank you for those who like it. Here's the best thing about electric cars. You cannot, I know for a fact, you cannot make gasoline on the roof of your house. That's all I'll say about that. You can make electrons, though.
I'm a young filmmaker, and I'm obsessed with shooting on 35 millimeter, and I know that your start in your career and throughout the entirety of it was shooting on film. So what has the transition been with you, like shooting young Sheldon, for instance, digitally, and then working on film primarily throughout your whole career? Is that something that you had to struggle with, or is it something that was just an easy transition?
I loved film. I learned to be a cameraman, and I learned to act in front of a film camera. And I liked the tactile nature of it and the physical nature of it. I liked the picture, the way it looked. I took a good many of the pictures in the book. There's a photo section, and I took most of those. In fact, I think just about every one I'm not in, I took all those. And I took them on beautiful old Kodachrome transparencies and on beautiful, like Plus X or Panatomic X, black and white negatives. So I love film and have loved it. But also, at some point, I made the transition, and I use digital now, and it's different, I know. And I like, Quentin Tarantino is a purist, and he shoots on film, and I understand that. I just don't know where the hell you get it processed nowadays. But a friend of mine, J.T. Molnar, this wonderful director, he just did a movie with Barbara Hershey and I will not say the name of it. See, you can do it. Just got to concentrate. But it's a wonderful movie, and it'll be out soon. And he shot it. He shot it on film. So film is beautiful if you want to do it and go through what's involved today to shoot on film. That's what you ask. I'm so deaf too. You're asking about film, right?
Yeah, and is there a different process for you working, like doing a lot of takes digitally, or just doing a couple takes back then?
No, it's all, when you're on stage in a play, that's a very different thing that you have to do for the most part. It just has to be, for the most part, bigger. But, it's all the same if the equipment is digital. I suppose there's some things that might be different because you can see such incredible detail. And the makeup person has to be really on their game so I don't look like this, like I actually look. Is that it?
Well, thank you, Ted and Mary. Thank you, Ed.